There is a name that once haunted the people of Henan province and all of China. This individual wreaked havoc for many years, committing numerous shocking crimes. Join us in today's video to discover who this person is and what they did to incite such widespread outrage. Welcome to Crime Documentary Files. On the morning of May 3, 1996, the Zhengzhou City Police in Henan Province received a missing person report. The report was filed by Zhu Yuanyu, 35, who stated that he had lost contact with his wife, Ren Xiaozhen, 34, since the evening of May 2nd. Zhu Yuanyu explained that he had called his wife several times. Initially, the phone rang, but shortly after, it was completely disconnected. Upon receiving the report, the police reassured Zhu Yuanyu and advised him to remain calm. The officer asked Zhu Yuanyu if he had searched for Ren Xiaozhen since the previous evening. Zhu Yuanyu confirmed that he had been in constant contact with family, friends, and even his wife's business associates, but to no avail. Since there was no evidence suggesting Ren Xiaozhen was in danger and the time frame from the afternoon of May 2nd was less than 48 hours, the police did not open an investigation. They asked Zhu Yuanyu to return home and continue waiting for news. Returning home, Zhu Yuanyu searched everywhere, but Ren Xiaozhen was nowhere to be found. The next day, Zhu Yuanyu went back to the police station. This time, the police opened a case. Zhu Yuanyu told the police that his wife was the director of a medical equipment supply company in the city. On the morning of May 2nd, Ren Xiaozhen had gone to work as usual. She left the house around 6:30 a.m. with no signs of anything unusual. Zhu Yuanyu did not work at the same company as his wife. He was an architect with a fairly flexible job. The couple had a long-standing rule of not interfering in each other's work, so Zhu Yuanyu was not familiar with his wife's daily schedule and did not pay much attention to whom she interacted with. Zhu Yuanyu did not believe his wife had run away, as she was very passionate about her job and would not leave it abruptly. Moreover, there was no reason for her to do so. Zhu Yuanyu also assured the police that he trusted Ren Xiaozhen completely and that she would not leave the family for someone else. The investigation team also ruled out the possibility of Ren Xiaozhen being kidnapped, as no ransom call had been received after 2 days. The police considered the possibility that Ren Xiaozhen might have had an accident on the way. However, after checking hospitals and morgues in the area, no unidentified victims were reported. To quickly find Ren Xiaozhen, the investigation team deployed additional forces to search riverbanks and remote roads. Despite a day's effort, there were no results. The police then went to Ren Xiaozhen's company to gather information from her colleagues. Her colleagues reported that she had not shown up at the office on the morning of May 2nd. Her assistant revealed that early that morning, Ren Xiaozhen mentioned having personal matters to attend to and could not come to the office, asking her assistant and subordinates to handle her work. After receiving information from her colleagues and assistant, the police had two main questions. First, if Ren Xiaozhen did not go to the company, where could she have gone? Second, why did Ren Xiaozhen lie to her husband about going to the office when Zhu Yuanyu claimed they always trusted each other and never deceived one another? The police initially felt something was off. They decided to investigate the victim's social relationships, starting with Ren Xiaozhen's husband, Zhu Yuanyu. According to neighbors, the police learned that although the couple appeared to be very loving, their relationship was not as smooth as it seemed. A few days before Ren Xiaozhen disappeared, neighbors heard the couple having a major argument. One curious neighbor went over and saw the door close tightly with loud noises coming from inside, resembling the sound of glass breaking. The neighbor, fearing that the continued argument could lead to something serious, tried to intervene. Despite this, the alarming sounds continued. This information heightened the police's suspicion. They began to consider the possibility that Zhu Yuanyu might have harmed his wife and then staged a disappearance to mislead the investigation. While keeping a close watch on Zhu Yuanyu's behavior and actions, the police received a report of an unidentified female body found under a bridge not far from Zhu Yuanyu's home. The investigation team quickly dispatched officers to the scene to verify the situation. The forensic examination revealed that the victim was a woman between 30 and 35 years old, about 1.68 meters tall, who had died 2 to 3 days prior. The time of death nearly coincided with Ren Xiaozhen's disappearance. The investigation team, now more suspicious, invited Ren Xiaojun's family to identify the body. Upon seeing the body, Ren Xiaojun's younger sister, Ren Yingshui, tearfully confirmed it was her sister, noting the similar appearance, hairstyle, and clothing. However, Zhu Yuanyu adamantly claimed that the woman was not Ren Xiaojun. This conflicting identification confused the police. Why were the two people closest to Ren Xiaojun giving different opinions? Following their previous line of reasoning, the police thought the body could indeed be Ren Xiaojun, suspecting that Zhu Yuanyu might be denying it to prevent the truth from coming out. To verify this, they conducted a DNA analysis. However, the results showed that the victim was not Ren Xiaojun. Despite this, the investigation team remained suspicious of Zhu Yuanyu. They asked him where he was and what he did on May 2nd. Knowing he was under suspicion, Zhu Yuanyu was surprised and somewhat upset. To prove his innocence, Zhu Yuanyu stated that after his wife left on May 2nd, his colleague, Zhou Chengwei, picked him up for work. Zhou Chengwei had seen Ren Xiaojun drive away, so the police's suspicions of Zhu Yuanyu harming his wife were unfounded. When the police questioned Zhou Chengwei, he confirmed seeing Ren Xiaojun drive past on the morning of May 2nd. Moreover, Zhou Chengwei and Zhu Yuanyu worked together the entire day, providing Zhu Yuanyu with an alibi. When Zhu Yuanyu couldn't contact Ren Xiaojun, he appeared very worried and asked Zhou Chengwei to help search for her throughout the night. With this alibi, Zhu Yuanyu was ruled out as a suspect. The case began to stall for several reasons. First, there was no clear evidence indicating whether Ren Xiaojun was in mortal danger. If she was, who was responsible? As more days passed, the whereabouts of Ren Xiaojun remained a mystery. To quickly find Ren Xiaojun, her family and relatives printed missing person flyers and posted them all over the streets, hoping someone would see and report back. Nearly 2 months had passed since Ren Xiaojun was last seen, and her family continued to hold out hope for her return. However, some feared the worst, believing she might have met with a fatal incident. On July 15th, the Henan Provincial Police announced the discovery of a severely decomposed female body in a ravine at Mount Song. The identity of the body was yet to be confirmed. The victim was described as a woman between 30 and 35 years old, with long black hair, wearing a wedding ring engraved with the names Zhu Yuanyu and Ren Xiaojun. Additionally, she wore an expensive-looking watch on her left hand and a gold heart-shaped necklace. After analyzing the scene, Henan police concluded that it was not an accident. The victim's clothes were disheveled and torn in several places, suggesting a struggle. All the bones were broken, indicating she was likely pushed from a height. The police considered this a particularly serious murder case and promptly began an investigation. News of the female body found in Mount Song's ravine spread quickly across the country. Zhu Yuanyu saw the report on TV and was alarmed by the similarities between the victim and his wife. The detailed description of the ring, necklace, and watch matched perfectly with Ren Xiaojun's possessions, causing Zhu Yuanyu great distress. He immediately drove to the Henan police station to confirm the identity. Upon seeing the remaining personal items, Zhu Yuanyu was certain that the victim was his wife, Ren Xiaojun. DNA analysis confirmed that the deceased woman was indeed Ren Xiaojun, turning the mysterious disappearance into a serious murder case. Zhu Yuanyu revealed to the police that his wife loved visiting temples, though he couldn't understand why she would go to such a distant one. He was also at a loss as to who could have committed such a brutal act. Despite the investigation team's efforts to gather clues and narrow down suspects, the complexity of the crime scene, the passage of time, and the rain washing away evidence, along with the severe decomposition of the body, made progress difficult. Consequently, the investigation did not yield any significant leads. The case of Ren Xiaojun became a source of fear for the residents around Mount Song, as the perpetrator was still at large. What terrified people even more was that shortly after her disappearance, a series of similar incidents occurred in the area, causing the investigation team great distress. Specifically, on June 13, 1997, a tour group from Hebei province visited Mount Song. Around 12:15 p.m., a young woman named Liu Jing, 22, wandered off from the group to enjoy the scenic path behind Shaolin Temple. When Liu Jing did not return, the tour leader became worried and asked the local police to search for her. However, the vast area of Mount Song made it challenging to locate one person. 5 days later, Liu Jing's body was found in a ravine halfway up the mountain. She was naked, her hands tied behind her back with rope, and her mouth taped shut. Recognizing the seriousness of the case, the police launched a large-scale search around the scene but found no additional evidence. However, they noted that the perpetrator's methods were very similar to those in a previous case involving a girl who had been raped and murdered at the base of the mountain. The police suspected a connection between the two cases. On May 1, 1997, in Mazhuang village at the foot of Mount Song, 13-year-old He Lingling vanished on her way home from school. Her body was discovered in a wheat field on May 24th, in a condition strikingly similar to that of Liu Jing. As the police grappled with these three cases, another 13-year-old girl, Yao Huiying, was found dead in a deep roadside ditch on the morning of September 13, 1997. Yao was a classmate and neighbor of He Lingling. Police statistics revealed that since 1996, numerous rape and murder cases targeting women had occurred in the mountain ravines, dense forests surrounding famous temples on Mount Song, and village roads at the mountain's base. By 2001, the death toll had risen to 7, with victims ranging from 11 years old to a woman in her 50s. Despite 5 years of intense investigation, the police had failed to identify any suspects. In mid-April 2001, Ren Changhe became the chief of Dongfeng City Police Department. Known as the Goddess of Police and a famous law enforcement figure in China, Ren took personal charge of the investigation and formed a new task force upon hearing the case details. After analyzing the evidence, the investigative team theorized that the perpetrator was a local resident with a fixed address near Mount Song, possibly using a special identity or profession as cover. A female officer went undercover to lure out the killer, but for over 2 months, the Mount Song area remained peaceful with no suspicious activity. The police suspected the perpetrator was aware of their actions and was hiding on Mount Song itself. The investigative team decided to mislead the killer by reducing police presence on the mountain roads, hoping to make him believe the danger had passed. Around 5 p.m. on July 23, 2001, Jing Ping, a female employee working at the Shaolin Temple office, was waiting for customers with her tricycle. A man, about 40 years old and dressed like a monk, hired her to take him to Lianhua Temple. Jing Ping parked her tricycle at a lot 3 kilometers from the temple and walked with the monk up the mountain to retrieve some items. By 6:40 p.m., all the tourists had left and the mountain path was deserted. At a fork in the path surrounded by dense vegetation, the monk suddenly turned around, grabbed Jing Ping by the neck, and dragged her into the forest. He tied her hands tightly with rope and attempted to tape her mouth shut. Realizing she might be killed, Jing Ping pretended to comply, pleading with her attacker that she would do anything he asked if he spared her life. The attacker left after assaulting her without causing further harm. After escaping, Jing Ping immediately ran down the mountain to report to the police, providing a detailed description of the assailant. With information from Jing Ping, the police focused their investigation on the area around Lianhua Temple and nearby temples. The nuns at Lianhua Temple mentioned that a man fitting Jing Ping's description, named Wang Xiaofeng, had stayed there. His background was unclear, and he had insisted on staying despite being asked to leave. A few months earlier, Wang Xiaofeng had been beaten for theft and had since disappeared. The abbot of Yuhuanggong Temple confirmed that a Taoist named Wang Xiaofeng had also stayed there a few months prior, claiming to be gathering firewood and medicinal herbs on the mountain. Determining that the suspect was nearby, the police set up ambushes in and around the temples, blocked the only road leading into the mountain, and stationed checkpoints along the path down the mountain next to Shaolin Temple. Finally, on the evening of July 24, 2001, Wang Xiaofeng was apprehended by the police. Jing Ping identified him as the man who had assaulted her the previous day. Wang Xiaofeng was immediately taken to the police station. Despite intense questioning, he refused to say anything. At night in his cell, Wang Xiaofeng would often shout that he hated women and men alike. Hearing this, the police were puzzled. Although they did not know the reason for his outbursts, they sensed that the suspect had likely experienced some traumatic event, leading to his unstable mental state. They tried various methods to calm him, attempting to understand and soothe his emotions in hopes that Wang Xiaofeng would eventually reveal the truth. However, their efforts seemed ineffective. On the fourth day after his arrest, Wang Xiaofeng unexpectedly asked a police officer what the punishment would be for killing one person. The officer responded that it depended on many factors. Wang Xiaofeng then asked what the punishment would be if there were multiple victims. These questions made the officer more cautious. Sensing an opportunity, the officer gave a clever response. He explained that if the perpetrator honestly confessed to the authorities, the punishment might be reduced, and the death penalty could even be avoided. Hearing this, Wang Xiaofeng began to waver. He sat in deep thought for over 2 hours before deciding to confess everything, hoping for leniency. Wang Xiaofeng revealed his real name was Wang Dongfeng, a 30-year-old from Chuzhou village in Yuanxi City, Henan Province. He was the elder of 2 brothers. Despite their affluent economic status, his family was unhappy. The wealth came from his father, Wang Dongti, who was notorious for his thefts. Wang Dongti was also known as a violent husband and father, frequently beating his wife and children, leaving them covered in bruises. Additionally, he often brought young women home and slept with them. Wang Xiaofeng's mother, Fushen, was no better. Abused by her husband and unhappy with her life, she had an affair. When this was discovered, she was beaten and eventually left the family. This left Wang Dongfeng and his brother living with their father and his mistresses, enduring constant abuse from both. Wang Dongfeng dropped out of school before finishing elementary education. He started hanging out with local delinquents, engaging in bullying and petty theft. Instead of punishing him, Wang Dongti encouraged these behaviors, believing that a son should surpass his father. In 1994, Wang Dongfeng started dating a girl named Guiling from his village. Guiling was 2 years younger, pretty, but arrogant, and often disrespectful. Throughout their relationship, she frequently became upset and threatened to break up. To prevent her from leaving him, Wang Dongfeng indulged her every whim, even resorting to theft to give her money. Wang Dongfeng believed that his sincerity and sacrifices would win Guiling's affection. However, one day, he visited her unexpectedly and found her with another member of his gang. Furious, Wang Dongfeng swore revenge on both of them. Fearing his threats, Guiling and the other young man went to the police and reported Wang Dongfeng for theft. Knowing he was wanted by the authorities, Wang Dongfeng went on the run. For 6 months, he evaded capture by moving between different towns during the day and committing petty theft at night. His criminal activities became more sophisticated over time. Realizing that his fugitive lifestyle would eventually lead to his capture, Wang Dongfeng decided that the most dangerous place might also be the safest. He returned to his hometown in Henan and moved to the Mount Song area in Zhengzhou City. There, he changed his name from Wang Dongfeng to Wang Xiaofeng and posed as a Taoist priest, using fortune-telling to scam people out of their money. In the period following his arrest, Wang Dongfeng's psychological state became increasingly erratic. Living on the mountain for an extended period, he developed a compulsion to touch and hold women's hands. During fortune-telling sessions, he could sometimes indulge this urge, but it did not fully satisfy him. He grew particularly agitated when couples visited the temples together, feeling jealous and increasingly determined to possess women. Initially, Wang targeted only young, attractive women. However, finding this too limiting, he decided to attack randomly, regardless of age or appearance. On May 2, 1996, Ren Xiaozhen, visiting from Sichuan province, came to Mount Song for sightseeing. She began her day early, visiting Shaolin Temple, Songyue Pagoda, and other spots. Later, she walked alone along the mountain path toward the mysterious Lianhua Temple. Seeing her alone, Wang Dongfeng followed her. Halfway there, he noticed Ren looking lost and needing help. Emerging from the bushes, he greeted her with Amitabha. Seeing the monk, Ren respectfully asked for directions to Lianhua Temple. The monk warmly offered to guide her. After a long, strenuous walk on the steep terrain, Ren grew exhausted. Seeing her sweating profusely, Wang suggested they rest. Ren sat on a rock, admiring the scenery and praising its beauty. When she asked the monk if he felt the same, she turned to see him lunging at her. Wang grabbed and kissed her aggressively, tearing her blouse. They struggled for a while, and Wang demanded she comply with his sexual advances, threatening to kill her if she resisted. Enraged by her refusal, he pushed her off the cliff. Hearing her desperate screams, Wang felt elated rather than scared, even smiling as if nothing had happened. More than 2 months later, Ren Xiaojun's body was found. On May 1st, 1997, continuous rain had increased humidity, blanketing the area around Mount Song in fog, making visibility poor and reducing visitors. Desperate to satisfy his urges, Wang ventured down the mountain and spotted He Lingling, a young student walking alone. He followed her to the eastern slope, where, seeing no one around, he grabbed her. Using tape to gag her and rope to bind her hands, Wang led her to a nearby wheat field. After assaulting her, he suffocated He Lingling until she died. On June 13, 1997, a large number of tourists visited Shaolin Temple, creating an ideal opportunity for Wang to strike. At around 11 a.m., a group of tourists from Hebei arrived at Mount Song. At 12:15 p.m., Liu Jing, 22, separated from the group to enjoy the scenery along the wooded mountain path behind Shaolin Temple. While she was admiring the view, Wang approached her from behind. Liu Jing politely greeted the monk. Without a word, Wang seized the moment, taping her mouth shut, tying her hands, and dragging her to a ravine midway up the mountain. He quickly stripped her and assaulted her. The more Liu Jing struggled, the more violently Wang acted. Her body was severely scratched from being pressed against the rocks. After satisfying his desires, Wang strangled her until she died. Before leaving, he conceived a perverse idea. Remembering the girl who had betrayed him, he was filled with rage. Associating Liu Jing with his ex-girlfriend, Gui Ling, Wang decided to mutilate her body brutally. He used a stick to repeatedly attack her genital area and violently pulled at her breasts. Liu Jing's body, left naked by the stream, was not discovered until 5 days later. Exposure to the elements and insects accelerated decomposition. Realizing that younger girls were easier targets, Wang began focusing on this demographic. On the afternoon of September 12, 1997, Wang Dongfeng descended from the mountain once again in search of prey. This time, he followed a lone schoolgirl walking home. The girl, 13-year-old Yao Huiying, was a classmate of the previous victim, He Lingling. Wang deliberately approached Yao, claiming to be a pilgrim who hadn't eaten and needed help. The naive Yao offered him some of her pocket money, which Wang refused, saying he only needed food. Yao then suggested taking the monk to her home. Wang pretended to follow her, but quickly attacked once they reached a secluded area. Despite Yao's tears and pleas, Wang showed no mercy. He dragged her into bushes, sexually assaulted her, and intentionally mutilated her genitals. Finally, he dumped her body in a deep roadside ditch. The entire crime went undetected. In the following period, due to increased police involvement, Wang became more cautious. Despite the authorities' efforts, they couldn't prevent the sex-crazed criminal from continuing his depraved acts. Disguised as a monk, Wang brazenly appeared in public, even observing crime scene investigations. As the police had yet to identify any suspects, Wang grew increasingly cocky, looking down on law enforcement's abilities. Wang's actions became more frequent and brazen, expanding his range of targets. He later confessed to police that from 1996 to 2001, while hiding in the mountains, he had sexually assaulted 19 people and murdered 7. Wang sought victims in temples, mountains, and on remote roads at the mountain's base, targeting people of all ages. His youngest victim was 11, and the oldest was 60. Wang revealed that he typically wore Taoist robes to scam people for money, but dressed as a Buddhist monk when committing crimes, constantly changing his identity. This tactic kept people off guard and avoided police suspicion. During his confession, the sex-crazed killer seemed proud, even boasting about his professionalism. Wang claimed that outwitting law enforcement so cleverly wasn't something just anyone could do. Upon realizing he couldn't escape the death penalty, Wang reacted strongly, refusing food and repeatedly banging on his cell door while shouting. When brought to trial, Wang flashed a contemptuous smile. He argued that the occurrence of so many serious crimes over 5 years demonstrated police incompetence. The killer even claimed that if he had received proper training, he would surely outrank these officers. Wang Dongfeng's string of shocking crimes outraged the entire Chinese population. In September 2001, he was sentenced to death. A large crowd gathered to witness his execution. When the sex-crazed killer fell, the crowd cheered enthusiastically. Even Wang's parents were horrified by his actions. They didn't attend his execution, fearing attacks from victims' families. After more than 5 years of terror on Mount Song, the sex-crazed killer Wang Dongfeng had committed countless brutal crimes, terrifying people across China. Many believed that the failure to catch the killer after the first crime led to devastating consequences, resulting in numerous deaths. Fortunately, the perpetrator was eventually brought to justice. This case also exposed individuals and organizations hiding behind religious facades to profit or commit wrongdoings, desecrating religious beliefs. However, as some netizens commented, these people ultimately got what they deserved. What are your thoughts on the perpetrator in this case? Let us know in the comments below. Thank you for watching today's video. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Crime Documentary Files.